Okay, I don't know. I had some technical difficulties there. Um, okay, welcome everybody to our Monday night. I'm having some technical issues here. Okay, let's get going here. Running a bit late this evening. Um, we are in Parshas Kisavo, and let's hop right in. It's an amazing slicha this evening. Let's see here. Okay, let's get started. Okay, Parshas Kisavo. Vehemshech, Mitzivui the Parshas Seno al mitzvahs bechorim, v'yatz la'aretz. Chayzer Moshe. Oh no, it's not. 1 second. The Devar all Klalos Kiyom Kal HaTorah v'mitzvos all Habiras Shebein Hakadosh Baruch Hu B'nei Yisrael. Okay, so in continuation, we see a commandment in this week's parsha. About the mitzvah of Bikurim. The mitzvah of Bikurim is that you must bring your first fruits, the best and choicest of your crop, as a gift to God. And you give it to the Kohanim as an offering. And as we learn, it says that in general, in this week's parsha, we see that Moshe is speaking to the Jewish people in general about all the mitzvot. But this mitzvah in particular of Bikurim, of their first fruits, is the one that is specified and singled out for discussion. So we're going to talk about that and see why. Hayom hazeh Hashem Elokecha mitzvah secha v'sois es hachukim hine al mishpatim v'shamaras v'asisam v'yisum v'kol levav v'kol nafshem. Okay, and so the commandment that he says, that Hashem commands Moshe to tell the Jewish people, is that you should fulfill all the laws, all the ordinances, and guard them, and do them with all of your heart and all of your soul. And that you should keep all of these mitzvahs that I'm commanding you today. And today you are going to cross over the Jordan River. And you will gather in their great fruits. As called Torah and you are chosen as a nation for Hashem your God. And you shall guard and listen to the words of Hashem your God and guard all these mitzvahs. V'shamartem as divrei habris hazois v'asisam v'yisam l'ma'an tashlichu as kol asher ta'asun. And it's generally, so the parsha opens up with this general idea of Moshe reiterating to the Jewish people the importance of keeping all the mitzvot, of following God's will, and doing all that is commanded upon you. And then we see Kivan shetzivoy habris al haklalos torah mitzvahs bo behemshech echad miyad da'achar mitzvahs bechor. We see that there's a commandment and a covenant that we must keep in general, all the mitzvahs. And this is a continuation, one continuation, immediately after the mitzvah of Bikurim. So the Rebbe asks a question. The mitzvah of Bikurim is a very specific mitzvah that we're going to talk about in a minute. And yet, hold on, I'll give you the exact language because I'm looking at the Chumash right now. So it says that when you come to the land that your God is giving you, you'll take possession there. You'll gather all the first fruits of the ground and give them to Hashem, your God. So it opens up in the beginning of the parsha with the commandment to bring the first fruits to Hashem. And then it continues on about, generally speaking, about the importance of safeguarding and watching after and carrying out all the mitzvahs that God has commanded upon us. And so the question is, what is this specific mitzvah of Bichorim, of bringing the first fruits? Why is that singled out in this parsha when you come to the land, as opposed to all the other mitzvahs in the Torah. Uprat alpi perish Rashi, as Rashi explains, Shamaras v'asisam oisam. You should guard them and do them. Talking about the mitzvahs in general. Ibracha sheba'al b'kala kiyam mitzvahs bichorim va'amura lifnei zeh. Yisira mezeh habris al klalos Torah mitzvahs ne'amra b'ha'oisa parsha bichad im mitzvahs bichorim. So what is the connection between, again, emphasizing this question, this very specific mitzvah of Bikurim with all the other mitzvahs that in general? In other words, this whole parsha is about when the Jewish people entered the land of Israel, the importance of keeping all of God's mitzvot. So why is this specific mitzvah of Bikurim being singled out to discuss? That's the question. Even more than that, the Rebbe explains, Habrit al kalav Torah mitzvahs na'amar ba'oiseh parshas bichad im mitzvahs bichorim yitalut haparshas hi be'inin zeh shetchilasa hi hakdama ve'yesh lo shaychus lehemshech ha'inin. The tzarich lahavin mahi shaychus ben mitzvahs bichorim ve'habris al kabal Torah mitzvahs. What is the connection between the specific mitzvah of bichorim, of bringing the first fruits, to the general covenants with all the Torah mitzvot? Call a Torah mitzvot chora bichorim hi mitzad pratim echad bein kol mitzvahs haTorah. That seemingly this mitzvah bichorim is a very specific mitzvah that is not really connected to all the rest of the mitzvahs in the Torah. Hi kashora im ta'naim v'gavulim bezman b'mikdash be'im be'ish u'minyan. So it says, first of all, this mitzvah of bikurim is only existing during the times of the Beis Hamikdash. When there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's no mitzvah bikurim. So it's only exists in a very specific time frame when the Beis Hamikdash is standing. So automatically we see that it's not applicable to most people in most times. So mahi hashaychus al zeh im zeh. So what is the connection where the parsha starts out with? It says, today Hashem is giving you all these mitzvahs to keep. Shekai al kol mitzvahs, referring to all the mitzvahs in the Torah. How you doing, brother? Get out of here. Holy smokeronies. Wow. Wow. Just saying your name makes me happy. Ray, wow, we got to catch up, man. I'm a terrible Facebook person. I just go on, I post my class once a week, and I never interact with anyone. I never connect with anyone because I'm so busy. But it's so nice to hear from you. I'd love to catch up with you, brother. B'tzrat Hashem. We gotta reach out. Gotta find a way to connect. I hope you're doing well. So the question is, again, what does this mitzvah have to do with all the other mitzvot? We're getting a commandment that we're supposed to connect to Hashem and follow His will on all the mitzvot, and yet we're specifying this particular mitzvah that is only applicable in the times of the Beis Hamikdash. Since that the Jewish people in general are obligated in all the mitzvahs in all times and all places, Pirush Rashi, that every day that these commandments that God is placing before us should be brand new, as if they were commanded to us today. So it just furthers the question of why this mitzvah of Bikurim, which is only in Israel and only the times the Beis Hamikdash are standing, is the one that's being singled out to discuss. Also, we have to understand the name of the parsha, Tzavo, Kavar Doiver Pamim Rabois Ben Noiga, the Shmois Haparshiois, Shishmo Shel Davar Mizbates, Toichan Hadavar, Shnikra B'Shem Zeh. That, as we've discussed many times, the name of the parsha is indicative of what's going on in the parsha. Tzavo Perishu Kinisa. So it says tzavo literally means when you enter, when you come, when you dwell in the land, talking about the Jewish people entering the land of Israel. It's seeming this is only a preface and a preparation to fulfill the mitzvah of Bikurim, to our hearts, because you can't do it until you've already entered the land. So if tzavo means like when you will enter, they're not even there. So again, it's just another reason why this mitzvah does not seem like a general mitzvah to be speaking about. Mitzvahs habikorim ad gam abris all called mitzvahs parsha say b'shem tzavo shuhu b'sech hachol akana v'kama kirma mitzvahs ba'aretz. So again, it seems like a very general idea that you're entering into the land of Israel, and we're being prepared to enter to the land of Israel. And the preparation is for all of these mitzvah, and we're signaling out a particular mitzvah, that is only applicable in the times of the Beis Hamikdash in Israel, after you're already dwelling there. So it just doesn't seem to connect with the name of the parsha or the rest of the parsha, which is a very general idea of Torah mitzvot. Okay, base. And so first we have to preface that there is something unique about the mitzvah of Bikurim regarding all the rest of the mitzvahs. Umikra Bikurim hu hakra ma'atoy isparechu yigia lanu kol habrachos ba'olam. It says, and that the idea of the giving of Bikurim is that there should be a recognition from him. Basically, that I'm going to continue to explain inside. Brachas HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shemiyah Yehudi as Shefa HaTevo'os VaHaPeiros B'Shadeh. The idea is that the fact that we're able, especially in the land of Israel, to produce such wonderful fruits and vegetables and wheat, grain, things that grow from the land, it's all a blessing from Hashem. So Hashem blesses us with shefa, with abundance. He blesses the farmers with abundance in their produce. And so the idea is, we're giving to Hashem the first fruits of our yield. And it's a way of saying thank you. It's a way of acknowledging to Hashem that I couldn't have this if it wasn't for you. And because of your blessing, and you've blessed me with abundance, therefore, the first of my fruits of my crop, I'm going to offer to you as a thanks, as a praise, right? It's kind of like similar to the idea of giving tzedakah. You're supposed to give tzedakah before you give anything else. I actually give tzedakah before I even pay taxes. And people say you don't need to do that. You give your money after tzedakah, after you pay your taxes. And I said, listen, God comes before Uncle Sam, because that's just the reality of it is that it's all how we relate to Hashem. And when we look at it as what we have is from God, then why wouldn't we want to give God the best of what we have? And that's the idea of these first fruits. And therefore we give from the first and the choicest of the fruits of our land, right? You don't want to give God like a basket of like shriveled up grapes that have like rot on them. Say, this was left over. Here you go, Hashem, after you've given me such abundance. We're blessing and thanking Hashem for his kindness. And we're literally calling out before Hashem our God. In other words, the mitzvah of Bechorim is a mitzvah they're also engaged with speaking. When they bring their first fruits to the Kohen, they're praising and blessing Hashem verbally. And basically, we're recounting the kindness and the blessings that God has bestowed upon the land of Israel and upon the Yidden in general. Hadgasha hoda'ah the Kodesh Baruch Hu chasidav amiras haTorah machashivach the Kodesh Baruch Hu as all called zehu inin kolali v'chay Yehudi. And this is emphasize the thanks and praise to Hashem for his kindness And we're praising him for all the general goodness of the life, of our life, of the Yidden. Hello, miyad kishinora mishnasei aide hakra v'yitzeh modeni lefenecha. And this is similar to when we wake up in the morning. The first words we utter out of our mouths is modeh ani lefenecha. I'm giving thanks to you, God. For what? For waking me up. For giving me another opportunity to do good in your world. For giving me the ability to have this opportunity. It's something to be grateful for. It's something that we don't think about too often, right? How often do you thank God for air, for water, for basic necessities, for seeing, hearing, speaking, things we take for granted. So when we wake up, the first thing we do is we say, thank you, Hashem. We're praising Hashem. Shechazer as bein nashmati. And thank you for returning my soul into me. And this is the foundation of the life of a Yid. This is the opening gate for all the service that we commit to God throughout the rest of the day. And then after that, we give the blessing, morning blessings, and we do our morning prayers. Brachas hanohanin hashayinais v'hadurabois Yehudi. And throughout the entire day, we continue to give God blessings. Anytime we eat, anytime we drink, excuse me, every day. And of course, the main blessing of we say over bread when we bench. That you sustain the world, God, with your goodness and your kindness and your mercy. So this is the idea, and this is supposed to be the forefront of all of our minds and all of our actions. And it's a reminder to thank God, to make God an integral part of our lives. And even more than this, even the nations of the world. Even the nations of the world, the Rebbe says, they believe and they recognize that Hashem is the creator of the world and that he runs the world. And they also give thanks and praise to God. They have their own versions and ways of doing it, but it's an acknowledgement. It's a thank you. Right? In America, we celebrate this, on Thanksgiving, right? It's an interesting, the name of it, what is it called? It calls Thanksgiving. Well, so what does that mean? Thanksgiving. You're thanking. You're giving thanks, right? Like how do you appreciate or acknowledge another person? You give thanks. Thanksgiving. You're giving thanks. And like the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov are known, that God renews all of creation every single moment. And this is the kindness without any limitations or boundaries that God brings to the world every single day. Because God's influence all around, everything depends on his kindness. And the world only exists because of God's continuous kindness. If not, it wouldn't be here. But this idea of the mitzvah bikurim is something unique. Because it's a mitzvah that is revolving around expressing, in general, the thanks and appreciation to Hashem. Yehudim is bata es rashi todasoi. The Kodesh Baruch Hu avor v'chazdal lo rak b'dibo. Adam b'mishbata zois pa'efen v'chodshi yoser b'ma'asim. Because when we're giving thanks to Hashem, right? People say talk is cheap. It's nice to say thank you or whatever, but how do you really show it? Like if someone says, "Oh, you do something wrong," they say, "I'm sorry." Do you mean it? Sometimes you could say things, but it has to be followed up with action. And that's the idea, is that the praise and the thanks also have to come along with the deed. And therefore they physically take the first of their fruits and bring them to the Beit HaMikdash. תביא בית השם אלוקיך על המקום אשר יבחר השם אלוקיך לשכן שמו שם. This is God's dwelling place, the place that he chooses to dwell in. המניחים לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונצא לפני השם אלוקיך. And they bring the first fruits, and they praise Hashem and thank Hashem, and then place these first fruits as an offering before God. And this is an expression of thanks and recognition how God runs the world and fills the whole world. Yehudi eino mistavich v'habracha v'kol choshuv bo lo chasdei Hashem v'brachas yisbarech. Ela hu ma'ra v'ha'ava'a bikorim shegam na'achri kabbalah shefa ha'perus. And therefore, it says, one second. We acknowledge and recognize that everything we have is due to the thanks and kindness of Hashem. And it's our way of saying thank you to God's kindness for us. And therefore, when God blesses us with abundance, we return by giving him the choicest of that abundance. Shaychus ha'perus adayin l'kodesh baruch hu. And therefore, it's the very first fruits. We're bringing them to God's place, his Beis HaMikdash. We're saying, here, Hashem, I'm coming to give thanks and blessings to you because of all the blessings you've given to me. Let's see here. Parshas Nitzavim. Is that next week? Okay. Pala subas habichorim lefnei Hashem Elokecha kadares lo oimek ba'adam nabi habichorim shekir oid yoisra yergish kulo kol hanimtza bereshus shayach lefnei Hashem Elokecha. And therefore, we are putting this in front of Hashem. And it's showing that these fruits, these first fruits, are representing what we're bringing before God. Again, as an offering of thanks for what God has given to us. And this offering of thanks is not only just with our thoughts or with our words, but with our actual physical being. It's an actual act. We're physically bringing these things to God, to the Beis HaMikdash. Called the Vushav Ad Shepuala, Hamase, Hoider the Oimek Yoiser Gam Bidiboy, Vanias Amaratev Shem Elokecha, Shamor Zeis Pikil Iram, Besimcha, Vakshava Kavana Bezeh. Wow. So the idea is, it's happening, Dov, that this idea of Bikurim, the Rebbe is trying to get across to us, is this understanding that when we're doing things for God, we got to do them with our being. We got to go all in. In other words, it's not just about throwing a God a bone here and there, right? Anyone who has succeeded in anything in their life, whether that's financial, relationship, sports, I don't know, fill in the blank, whatever the case may be, will tell you that the key to really succeeding in something is going all in. You've got to push. you can't just kind of half-ass it. You can't just kind of like do things on the surface. And that's what the Rebbe is saying is this whole, the idea of Bikurim is that it was a thought process. It was like, wow, I'm taking all my crops in, and if it wasn't for God, I would have nothing. How thankful and how appreciative am I to God for all He's done for me. So there's the thought there, and then there's the verbalizing, the words of thank you, Hashem. And then there's the action of actually bringing them and putting them before God. Here's the fruits, right? It's the Havdil, a billion Havdalas. I was really into Greek and Roman mythology as a kid. And it's fascinating. I have a chart. I think I'll have it saved somewhere still of all the gods, the Greek and Roman gods. Zeus, and Hercules, and all these. And I think there was the god Dionysus, if I'm not mistaken. It was like the god of the offerings of wine and wheat and things like this. And I'm sure it was taken from the Torah from this idea, because the entire Greek mythology is basically they've taken God, and instead of saying God is the one who brings things to everyone, they made individual gods. And each aspect of what God does or is capable of, God rules over the seas. Okay, here's Poseidon. Let's make a god for the seas. And they put these very clever, very nice. But it's just this interesting concept how this same concept was mentioned in Greek mythology in a different way. But the idea is that this is you're showing to Hashem that God, you give me so much. And, this analysis is hard to do without gratitude. If you don't express gratitude and thanks for what you have, and instead you focus on what you don't have and what you didn't get and all the things that are missing in your life, you can never get to this place, because you got to start with this place of gratitude and thanks for all you have. And the more grateful and more thankful you are to Hashem, the more it becomes meaningful in your life, and the more you really mean it. And then you want to give from your heart to God. You want to give everything to Hashem, and you want to give it with a kavana, we say, with an emphasis, so that they're bringing this first fruits with a real intention, a real gratitude, and a real thanks, and it shows in thought, speech, and action. And that's important. It's important to realize, for some reason, I just had a conversation with a guy in shul a couple weeks ago, and what I was talking about Hashgacha brought this story something, and he asked a very interesting question, like, how do you set yourself up to be in a situation to have something like that happen to you? And how do you recognize it? Because sometimes you may not know that God is trying to help you or guide you. How do you get in that place? And he was a successful businessman. And I told him, it's no different than in business. How do you get to a place in business where you're closing bigger deals, or you're making more money, or whatever the case may be? It's because you live, eat, breathe, and sleep in that business. The more you're involved in the business that you're in, the more time and energy you put into it, the more you start seeing and becoming sensitive to opportunities. But if you're not, if you're working a couple hours a day and you're barely putting any effort, you're not going to have that sensitivity. And it's the same thing with God. People think that, business, yeah, work hard. God, whatever is God, God's there. It's a real thing. It's a real relationship. It's a real effort. And it's a genuine relationship that you have to put work into, and it pays off, but you have to be willing to put in the effort. So it's not a different analysis. The more work you put in towards getting closer to Hashem, the result is you get closer to Hashem. So that's the idea, is that to get to this point where you want to give to God and you're enjoying it. It's not like, I can't believe I got to give tzedakah out of this money. This sucks. I wanted to use this to buy a new whatever. Not like, wow, I get to give tzedakah. That's great. Whatever's left over, okay, let me see what I can do with what's left over. To shift in a mindset. Okay, Gimel. So let's explain further. It says that Chazal referred to the Jewish people also as Bikurim, as the first fruits. Kadosh Yisrael Hashem Reshis Tavoisei. That the Jewish people are holy to Hashem because we are His chosen people, His first fruits. Just like the name Bechorim, Heim Reshis Pri Adama. is the first of the fruits of the land. Hein b'chorim klo. Chach b'nei Yisrael hein b'reishis ha'olam. The Jewish people are the first fruits of the world. לפני המעלה מכל מה שנברא מחשב סיין של ישראל קדם לכל בדבר. That it says before God created the world, he consulted with the souls of the tzaddikim, with the Jewish people, and this was up above in heaven, and made a discussion about whether or not we should create the world. That he should create the world, that we should be part of it. We should be his co-creators. And we agreed. We agreed to all the challenges that we're going through as a nation, as people. So we were first, front and center in God's thought process in bringing creation into existence. As God created the heavens and earth, and the world was created, it says, for the Jewish people, that we were the beginning of creation, of his first fruits. And this is connected not only to the souls of the Jewish people as they exist above, or as they exist below, and the Kol Yehudi Prati Lamat, but every single one of us individually here, physical souls and bodies. And Nashim V'tach, men, women, and children. That each one of us are obligated to say that God created the world only for me. And every Jew must say that the world was only created for my sake. What does it mean? It means that we have to refocus our mindset and spend less time and energy on stupidities, on following people on social media and how many people have this many followers and this person said that and this person said that, because in the end it would be the equivalent of watching a movie, right? Let's say, I don't want to get into a whole movie discussion, but I don't know, pick an actor, right? So you're a famous actor and he's in this movie, and throughout the whole movie, instead of focusing on his mission, he's like just random people like, hey man, how many likes did you have on Facebook this week? Oh, and how about you? And just going around and just spending all of his time paying attention to what everyone else is doing, there'll be no movie. Well, that's what we do in our lives, unfortunately. In other words, each one of us is the central actor in our lives. Each one of us is the main protagonist of our lives. And our family and our close friends are like the supporting actors and actresses. And everyone else in the world is just extras. And we spend so much time worrying about what these extras are thinking about us or what they're doing that we lose so much energy and time focusing on what matters most, which is, why am I here? And that's what it means, that every one of us must look at the world like it's literally for us, because in a way it is. Each one as an individual is the main player in our movie. And until we acknowledge that, we're going to spend our life that we've given a lead role. Imagine you're the lead role of your story and you want to be an extra. It's kind of a waste. And this mitzvah of Bechorim was necessary to bring to Jerusalem and place it in the Beis Hamikdash before Hashem your God. This is connected also to the Jewish people. Why? Because we are really the Bikurim in the world. We're the first fruits of the world. And therefore, we are really the true place of Hashem, is where we always are. Our entire existence literally is to live before Hashem, our God. Beit HaMikdash, and that's the Beis HaMikdash. That since the true ultimate intention of a Jew is our godly soul. It's literally a portion of God from above. That the Jewish people and God are truly one. Therefore, every Jew, wherever we may find ourselves, we are connected and together one with God. and therefore we must always realize we're before Hashem. When we prioritize our godly soul, right? Dov and I were talking about this morning how I'm sure in both of our lives, given the choice, we would rather pack up and kind of move to a deserted. Dov would probably move somewhere to farm upstate Ocala. I would probably move in the mountains somewhere in Colorado and just live a very simple life. But that's not why we're here. That's what our animal soul wants. That's what our animal soul wants. Our animal soul wants to say, you know what? I've had enough of dealing with this world. I'm just going to go, live off the land, live a simple existence. But that's not what our godly soul wants. The Rebbe says you don't live in the most convenient place. You don't live where you want to live. You don't live where you think it's going to be the most fun or the most entertaining or the more things to do. You live in the place where you're the most useful. Where you are the most useful. You go to shul where you could be the most benefit of the people around you, not where you can get the moralias or the bigger honor. It's where you can have the bigger influence on people. And it's the same place. We don't live where it's maximizing for us. We live where we can have the most maximum impact on our surroundings. And that's, again, it's a shift of a mindset between our godly soul and our animal soul. And the Rebbe is saying the true nature of a Jew is our godly soul. And when we realize that, our godly soul is part of God. So we're literally before Hashem all the time. And we have to live our lives in such a way, like we're literally before Hashem all the time. Because if we really felt and believed and knew that God was in front of us all the time, we would probably be acting in a different way. And that's the idea. Means literally we're very close to God all the time. In an inner way, what does it mean? In an inner dimension, in other words, in a revealed way, we realize that God is always there around us, in front of us, whatever we're doing. But in a deeper way, it's not that God's around us, in front of us. He's inside of us. We're literally one with him. It says that when we went into the exile, the Shekhinah came along with us. All of our suffering, all of our challenging, all of our difficulties, every argument, every fight, every problem, whatever we've been through and we're going through, we have to understand that God is there with us going through this whole process. That we're literally one with Hashem. That since God created the world, ממילא אין זה בו ואין זה מגיע פנימס. הרצון הכוונה השם אלוקיך, מה שאין כן ישרוך הם בכורים. ותכליס הוא בהם גוף. That the world is, look at it as, I don't know, pick a sport. Let's say you're into basketball, right? The main part of basketball is not the court. It's the game, right? It's the court is just enabling them a place to play the game. And that's the same idea. The whole purpose of creation isn't the world, so to speak. The world is just the stadium. It's the place where this event of our lives take place. The main point is us. That's what it's about. That's why God created the world. This is the main thing. This is what it means. God created the world for the sake of the Yidden. Since God and the Jewish people are truly one, literally, we're before Hashem and we're with Hashem all the time. That's what it means. Hashem, you are God. It's a personal relationship. Even as we find ourselves souls in bodies down here in the physical world, we are God's first fruits. And therefore each one of us is obligated to say that the world was created for my sake. That's not an egotistical saying. That doesn't mean everyone should, the world revolves around me and everyone should just do whatever I want. It means I need to refocus and recalibrate my day-to-day life and what is important. And where am I putting my emphasis and my time and my energy? Because but dargas habichorim kanal shekol echad be'echad chayv the morning. Oh, it said that ve'ein macholkim bezeh bein uhuri v'echad v'echad v'achad. And there's literally no division between one Jew and another. And the kol echad v'echad mamish, literally each one of us in a state of total oneness. Afilu kazeh shenimza bedarga nochaisa chayv the morning b'shil nivarayim. Every single one of us has to have this mindset that God created the world for me. What am I doing? What am I doing with the world that God has graciously made me his partner? That's what we have to ask ourselves. וזה מובן גם שזה שיהודי הוא לפני השם אלוהו ככה צריך להדור בכל חיי היהודי וכל גם בפרט. יהודי צריך להדגיש שכל פרט חייב לו, הוא עניין של בכורם והקדוש ברוך הוא. From this we can understand that also that a Jew has to have a mindset that we're literally before Hashem all the time. And therefore it's necessary that it should penetrate every aspect of our life in general and specifically. Yehudi tzrich lahadgish shekol parat. It's not easy being a chassid, I can tell you that. Not that I'm a chassid, but I'm trying to be one. And it's not easy to try to be one. Because the Rebbe has a very high bar for us. So does Hashem. The Rebbe is just bringing it to reality. But so what he's saying now, that every Jew, it's necessary to emphasize every single detail of our lives need to be the Bikurim of Hashem. First to God. Not only when we're dwelling in matters of holiness, of Kedusha, mitzvahs, like during Torah or doing mitzvot, or parnasa, keduma, rather, even when we're dwelling in things that are ordinary, making money, day-to-day drudgery of life, whatever you want to do, whatever you're doing, we have to understand that every permissible thing in our lives, Hashem has to come first. And this is the relevance to the idea of Bikurim, of first fruits. But the Kedusha, the mile and the Eres Beyeser. Wow. Our whole life, our whole existence has to revolve around this idea that we're before Hashem or God. And even when we're dealing with things where our thoughts are in a different matter whatsoever, or speech or deed, Hashivos biyachas teshar hamachshavasoi, Dibra Mase, Habisa Makshava, Dibra Mase, Yehudi, Hazeh, Helak, excuse me, Bikurim, Kishachim Beis Hamikdash, Nifnei Hashem Lokacha. Whatever we're doing, realize that we're literally before Hashem in the Beis Hamikdash, and all of our, it's a sobering thought, all of our thoughts, all of our words, and all of our actions are giving over to God all the time. The question is, if we really scrutinize what we talk about, what we do, where we expand our efforts and our energies, and how much of that are we having Hashem in mind when we're doing that, it's something to think about, especially as we're approaching Rosh Hashanah. What do I want from Hashem? And what am I willing to give Hashem for that, right? Every time you set out a goal that you're going to put effort towards, you also have to package it with a sacrifice that you're willing to make. The sacrifice could be your time, it could be your sleep, it could be your energy, it could be not playing as much video games, it could be spending less time online. But you have to always give something up in order to gain something. And if we want from Hashem to bring us abundance, the question is, what are we willing to give up in our own individual lives to refocus that energy towards God to be worthy for that abundance. It's a give and take relationship, right? You're going to get out what you put in. And when you put Hashem in the forefront, he puts you in the forefront. And if God's an afterthought, well, then you become an afterthought. You can't cheat the system. There's better he cannot and this applies to all aspects of the life of a Jew. How many times the Rebbe said this already? The Sikha, I lost count. That a Jew is one with Hashem. There's nothing outside. Call Makshav Vidibur or Masishalam. Call Rega Bezman Venekuras Bemakoim Shabo, who nips wherever we find ourselves, whatever we're doing, whatever we're thinking about. It's a very small matter. We have to realize that every single moment, all the time, whatever we're thinking, whatever we're doing, whatever we're acting, we are literally standing before Hashem and offering whatever it is we're bringing into the world before God. Right? It's a sobering thought. Before you tell someone off, before you do something inappropriate, before you, act in a certain way, say things, just pause for a second and say, God is standing right in front of me, and I'm sitting in the Beis Hamikdash. Let me think about what I'm about to say. Let me think about what I'm about to do, because that's the reality that we're living in, and it's a sobering thought. But that's the reality. The Rebbe is telling us God is before us all the time. Every single thing we do. Not just when we're learning Torah, but all the time. Because that's the kind of relationship we have with him. God put part of himself inside each one of us. In every moment, in every place. We have to say, B'shvil nivra ha'odim. The world was created for my sake. What am I doing? I can tell you, and I've spoke about this many times, I'll continue to speak about it. I've made money, I've lost money, I've been rich, I've been poor, I've been up, I've been down many times in my life. Money comes and goes. Time is the most valuable commodity that we have. You never, ever get it back. It's gone forever. It's bewildering to me when I talk to people. What are you doing? They're like, I'm killing time. Killing time, literally, you're just murdering the most precious thing you have. It's like burning money. It's gone. You have such limited time in this world. And I again, I have said it before and I'll say it again. And it's not to be musardik on everyone, but it says that after 120, when we go up, the most painful part of the preparation before going up of Gehenna is when the soul realizes how much time it wasted in this world. That God allocated a specific amount of time to each one of us to be in this world. And when your time's up, it's up. And after it's up, when the soul comes to that realization, when it goes to its cleansing process before it goes up, it says, wow, how much freaking time did I waste with Nourishkeit, watching TV and social media and playing video games. Now, I'm not sitting and saying that you shouldn't have some downtime and you shouldn't have hobbies and you shouldn't have time to yourself. I'm a big fan of that, right? Just came back from North Carolina, rode the tail of the dragon, the most dangerous road in all of America for sports cars and motorcycles. Had a great time. Time I took for myself. Nothing wrong with taking time for yourself. Nothing wrong with having sports, entertainment, doing things in your life. But the question is how much? How much time are you dedicating to that? Because you don't get this time back. And it's precious. Since all the matters of creation are for our sake, for our work, for us to refine this world. And therefore we see why the mitzvah of Bichorim is so important, as it expresses our thanks and gratitude before Hashem. העניין הפנימי בחורים הוא מגלה איך המציאות האמיתית בני ישראל הוא דבר אחד עם הקדוש ברוך הוא. Wow. I'm going to go back and count, not now, but how many times did the Rebbe emphasize this pasuk, where it says the whole idea of Bikurim, the inner dimension, is to reveal how the true existence of every single Jew is totally one with God. That's our true existence. And therefore, including all the details of our life before Hashem our God, it reflects the fulfilling of the mitzvah of Bichorim in a simple way. Everything we do. And it's not only through giving praise and thanks with our words, but our deeds. Our physical things that we're bringing before God. And we're leaving them within God's reshus and His domain. We took a simple fruit and transformed it into something holy. And this is the true existence of a Jew. Bikorim, firstborn, first fruits. Thought, speech, and action. And he answered Hashem, everything around me. And Hashem is listening to our prayers, to our requests. And not only are we expressing through words how God created everything, and we're giving praise to Him for all the goodness and kindness He showered upon us. Also, but the creation and all the creations, and that was left, these two separate ideas. What is it? Through the fulfilling of the mitzvah bichorim, that we reveal down here in the physical world, that we are the first fruits, that God created the entire world for our sake, and therefore we want to fulfill whatever God is requesting of us. Right? That's how you would give thanks to someone. Right? Imagine you had someone in your life that was so selfless that they didn't ask for anything in return, and all day long they just kept giving you things. They're giving you money, they're giving you praise, they're giving you thanks, they're helping you, they're following you around, they're doing what they're blowing your nose for you, never asking for anything in return. You're not giving them any money for this. You're not, they're just I exist just to help. Wow, you'd be pretty thankful, right? But do we express that same level of thanks to Hashem for life, eyes, ears, nose, mouth, speaking, health? How often do we do it? Well, that's the idea. We should do it more often. Hey, and now we see the connection between this specific mitzvah of Bichorim with all the other mitzvahs in general. Bichorim megalim as hataklis ekiyom as Torah of mitzvahs, because the Bichorim, the first fruits, they reveal the ultimate fulfillment of the Torah and mitzvahs. Because it's something we can do down here in the physical world, in our physical bodies. And it's emphasized through this Bikurim. And it's showing that we literally are one with Hashem. That the Jewish people and Hashem are truly one. I think he said it at least 10 or 15 times already in the Sikha. I'm not saying that as a slight, God forbid, to the Rebbe. I'm just showing how important this message is. Vav. Now let's talk about it a little bit deeper. How am I doing on time? I did some bringing along the way as we started. Let's see here. 13, We've got to get to page 337. Okay, a little behind. We'll catch up. Okay. And we are God's first fruits, since we were the first thing that arose in his thought when he created the world. Who, if you look at Torah, even before the Torah, says that their Bereshit stands for two beginnings, referring to the Torah and the Jewish people. Nevertheless, the Torah still came first. Thank you. You as well. Two matters preceded the world, the Torah, and the Jewish people. And it's a question of which came first, according to some opinions. According to most opinions, the Jewish people preceded the Torah because the entire Torah is about commandments that are given for the Yidden. Therefore, we would say that the Jewish people even existed before the Torah. That even if a Jew, God forbid, is not shaykh to the Torah, if they're not currently keeping Torah and mitzvot, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Rebbe said chas v'shalom, but we're still. The fact is that the Torah was given in order for us to fulfill it. So it shows that our connection is higher than the Torah. That even though it's revealed that the Jewish people and the Torah are two separate things, nevertheless, in the truth, they are really one, the Torah and the Yidden. Bnei Yisrael kishorim im Torah. But Torah kadosh im Bnei Yisrael, that the Jewish people are connected to the Torah and the Torah is connected to the Yidden. But Perush Bezeh Yisrael Kadmoi, the Torah, but the explanation that's given that the Torah, that the Jewish people became before the Torah. Al derek siva umisevev kaviyocho Torah nitna b'Yisrael b'nei Yisrael v'lochein pekan doicher kol haTorah kulo v'lo the hefech. Okay, that the Torah was given to the Jewish people in order for the sake of the Jewish people, and not the opposite. The Jewish people weren't created for the sake of the Torah. Kiyum haTorah. Eino shach lilo b'nei Yisrael. Tzrichim es b'nei Yisrael kavlu v'kiyum es haTorah. Masha ein kein ke Yisrael shach afilu kasher adam oiver al Torah b'mitzvahs chas v'shalom. Again, the Rebbe is saying, even if, God forbid, you are not keeping the Torah, a Yid is not keeping the Torah. Nevertheless, we're still higher than the Torah. So in other words, according to some opinions, there's a question as to whether if the Torah came before the Jewish people or the Jewish people came before the Torah. And we say that according to most opinions, they're one and the same. But the Rebbe is emphasizing how the truth of the matter is really that the Yidden came first, because the whole point is that you could have the Jewish people that are not keeping Torah, so to speak, even though it's not the right way of why we're here. But you can't have the Torah without the Jewish people. In other words, the whole Torah is based on mitzvot that we need to keep. So based on that opinion, we come to the conclusion that we preceded the Torah and are higher than the Torah. Even though the Torah is one with the Yidden, we still have to say that the Yidden preceded the Torah. From this, we can understand that the very essence of a Jew is connected to the Torah. And we're meant to keep the Torah, because that's a part of who we are. We are people of the book, as they say. Hold on, I'm trying to see where this bracket goes to. Okay. And therefore, the very essence of a Jew exists and wants to fulfill the Torah in actuality. Psak in a Rambam, as the Rambam says, the inner desire of every Jew is tamid dikiyum es ratzon Hashem, is to continuously fulfill the will of God. It's an interesting comment from the interesting explanation from the Rambam, meaning that every single yid, all the time, in our being, in our kishkas, in our godly soul, wants nothing to do other than to continuously, not from time to time, continuously fulfill the will of God. So why don't we do it? That's where the Yetzer Hara gets in the way. That's where the animal soul gets in the way. That says, it's busy. What does God care? He cares what you eat. He cares what you dress. Do what you want. So, all that negative voices he gives us. Megado before Yedei Torah call Lefi Seder Avoda al Derek Haregel L'Tchila. But the general idea is that we must keep this in a normal fashion, in a regular way. It's the mitzvahs, because this is part of who we are. We're meant here to keep Torah and do mitzvot. That's our being. But in our being, we're still higher than the Torah. So let's explain further. Talat kishurim inun mitzkashrin da vada. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the rights of Yisrael. It's brought down that with 3 knots, 3 ties that connect the Jewish people, God, and the Torah. So a question arises. What does it mean 3 knots? You have 3 things, right? So here we've got 1 thing, 2 things, and 3 things. How do you connect them with 2 knots? 1 knot here, 1 knot here. So what does it mean that the God, the Jewish people, and the Torah are connected with 3 knots? Because you only need 2 knots to connect these things. So the reason you have 3 connections is because when you do like this, in a triangle fashion, so if you did them like this, you'd have this is the beginning, this is the middle, and this is the end. But if you do them like this, you've got 1 knot here, 1 knot here, 1 knot here. You have a triangle that it's 3 sides. And that's just showing how deep the connection exists between the Yidden, the Torah, and Hashem, literally. And that's what he's going to emphasize. Now, Yisrael, that's right. A Yid is 2 levels. Aleph, Neshamas Yisrael Kafi Shehein, Yiridas Lamata Bagufa Oid. That the soul of us descended down here below into a physical body. Shabein Hein Yesh Nivra Mamash. Literally physical. We're physical bodies, right? Physical. And therefore we are in a world of concealment and hiding. We live in a world where sheker, lies are prevalent, and truth is hidden, it's concealed, just like God is concealed. We've got to work to reveal it. And it's not revealed, our connection to God. It's concealed. And how do we reveal this connection? Through the Torah. That even here down below, the Torah, the Jewish people, and Hashem are one. That's one connection. Second, regarding the essence of the soul of a Jew, that the Jewish people are truly one with God. Because we received the Torah. ולכן יש בכוחם של בני ישראל להשפיע לחדש בתורה. And therefore, we're obligated to find unique things in the Torah and to share them with others. עד שהם חברים את התורה, בקדוש ברוך הוא למעלה מהתורה. So the idea the Rebbe is bringing out is the following. On one hand, we say, okay, we have God, we have the Yidden, we have the Torah, and we're all one, we're all connected. And the way we connect to God is through the Torah. God is infinite, we're finite. We connect finite beings to an infinite God through the Torah. That's the bridge. But on another hand, we say we're higher than the Torah because in our true essence, we are truly one with Hashem. Even if the Torah is not in that figure, so to speak. Because we came before the Torah. I already said. Therefore, we're obligated to find unique things in the Torah. Even down here in this physical world, in physical bodies, we must have this constant realization that we are totally one with Hashem all the time. And we're literally standing before Hashem all the time. And we could see how we can express this to a child or someone who is a Judaism is something that is not familiar with them, so to speak, what it means to be from a Yid. Let's say, this is interesting. That a Jew who was raised without a Torah education, the Rebbe says it's not chas v'shalom his fault, because it was like we were captured amongst goyim. In other words, if you were raised in a home without Torah and mitzvot, it was like you were captured, literally, because you can't be held responsible for that. I wish I would have known that when I started Tshuva, and I was so upset of all the things that I did wrong that I was not aware of. But that's a different story. שכיוון שקדוש ברוך הוא בעמדהו במצב זה ואין הוא בשם אחך, גם שעדיין אין לו שייכות וגילוי לתורה, אף על פי כן גם הוא בדרגת בכורים. So the Rebbe says, you let, all right, let's make it simple. You come across a Yid, and you want to connect them. You want to connect them to Hashem. This person has no previous Torah knowledge. They've never studied Torah and they've never learned Torah. They don't know anything about it. One option is to tell them you're Bikurim. You're God's firstborn, your first fruits, and you're constantly before Hashem, your God. And you preceded the entire world. Even the Torah. And the entire world was created for you. And that's one approach that you could bring a Jew closer to the Torah, is instead of focusing on learning Torah with him, you focus on explaining to him who he really is and what his essence is and how he's truly one with Hashem and truly one before Hashem. And Hashem chose him before he even created the world. And this service can be done in one of two ways. One is the normal way. You connect the Jew to God through the Torah. And therefore learning Torah is equivalent to all the other mitzvahs. And in fact, we're obligated to spend every moment we can to learn Torah. And because by learning Torah, it will bring us to fulfilling mitzvot. And the second way of connecting a Yid, Adam shenimtza b'mitzav shel ashmoise, shadayin ein lo shaychas gilui leTorah, nimtza etzel yenu b'korim, v'shvira nivra kol, v'adarabah. It's a gufo niver oisi leTorah. That if you focus, in other words, the Rebbe is giving us two paths to connect a Yid. In one path, you say, all right, I'm going to connect you to God through learning Torah with you. By learning Torah together, it'll penetrate into you and it'll reveal your godly soul and you'll connect to God. A second way is I'm going to connect to your godly soul and I'm going to focus my energy on bringing the connection into your godly soul. And by connecting your godly soul and lining your godly soul up, you're going to want to learn Torah. So there are two different ones, Torah to God or God to the Torah. And the Rebbe says both work. There's not that, and you got to use which approach depends on what situation. Zayin v'yeshmar she'inin zak klali b'mitzvahs b'chorim. And now again with the general idea of this mitzvah b'chorim, we're bringing the first fruits. Misbat gam mikra b'chorim haparsha should be aveh b'chorim oimer. Nias v'amaras tefsher Hashem lemchecha, as it says in the beginning of the parsha, and we're saved before Hashem your God. Armi Oved Avi, that her father was tried to kill by Lavan. Yerad Mitzrayim, and he descended down to Egypt. We had Tzienu Hashem Mitzrayim. Hashem sent him down to Egypt. Yitain Lanu Es Haaretz Hazois, and he gave him the land of Israel. Lo Haim Eninim Klali Makashrei Mikol Bnei Yisrael B'Kol Adoros. And these matters are in general and connected to all the Jews in all generations. Tuchan Kriyas Hu Shalom Roy Sha'ad Armi Oyeved Avi Shiakra Nimsa Etzel Lavan Mekasher the Akor Eskal Achad Yaakov. I don't know why the Rebbe is bringing this out. Anyways, he was chasing after Yaakov, wanted to do him harm. The Acharzev Yereda Mitzrayim. After that, he descended down to Egypt. They were very few in number. Shekol Zeh Hashem Tifnei Matan Torah, and all this took place before the giving of the Torah. Lo Rak Shezeh Lo Paga B'Yaakov Lavanav, and that no harm would come upon Yaakov or his children. On the contrary, he shamed the Goy Gadol, and I will turn them into a great nation in number and quality. And after we're counting this, the Exodus going down to Egypt, but Mitzrayim, but Egypt is a place of boundaries and limitations. And God took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and outstretched arm, and he performed many miracles with us. And he gave us the land of Israel, a land flowing with milk and honey, and he chose us to be his first chosen fruits, his firstborn fruits. And we respond to God, and he responds to us, Mida Keneged Mida. And just like he chose us to be his firstborn fruits, we therefore return the emphasis on by placing him first and giving him the first of our fruits. So the Rebbe is saying this is showing how the Jewish people that we were revealed as God's chosen people even before the Torah was given, right? Because all this took place before we even got the Torah. Because the Torah was not even given below. So all these matters that were done for us by Hashem took place even preceding the Torah. That we were chosen as the first fruits before everything, even before the Torah. God will turn us into a large nation as chosen people. And afterwards, he took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and outstretched arm. And give us the Holy Land. He's just emphasizing how all these things took place even before the Torah was given, to just strengthen the opinion that we in fact existed and take precedent even over the Torah. Okay, Ches. Now we're going to talk about a little bit that the giving of the fruits were brought in a basket. There are specific baskets that the fruits were brought to the Bris Hamikdash. That this was the halacha. You couldn't just take a bunch of I don't know, pineapples or fruits and just stick them in your shirt and just throw them down on the floor. You brought them in a vessel and put them down in a basket. So the fruits were, how were they brought to Hashem? They were given to the Kohanim. Certain Kohanim would accept the basket of the first fruits and place them before Hashem in the base of Mikdash. So the Kohanim, depending on the type of vessels. Hi, Rucham. How are you, my dear? Nice to hear from you. Are you still on the road? I'm going to get back to this year. Anyway, so they would bring these baskets to the Kohanim. And the Kohanim, it says the rich people would bring their fruits in very fancy baskets of silver, of gold, very nice ornamented baskets. So the Kohanim, obviously, they would take the fruits out of the baskets and put them down and give them their basket back. But if they were less expensive baskets and cheap made out of straw or whatever they were made out of at the time, they would keep the basket. They wouldn't return it. They would take it as part of the gift of the fruits. And the completion of the Yidden and their advantage, showing us that we're the first fruits. Kli, neshama bekli guf, because the vessel, without a vessel, the vessel is like a body to the soul. The fruit's like the soul, and the vessel is like the body. And if you don't have the vessel, you don't have the body. Even the vessel of a poor person. I'll continue with the Rebbe saying there was even advantage to the baskets brought by the poor people. Because the poor people brought these simple baskets, and therefore their fruits, remained in their baskets. So even their vessel, even their kli, made it before Hashem, your God. Okay, fine. So the idea is the Rebbe is saying that there's an advantage to the poor people's basket, because the Kohen, the rich people, he would take their fruits, take them out, and give them their fancy basket back. With the poor people, the baskets were very cheap. There were a couple of pennies, whatever they were sewed together with straw, whatever it was. They dumped the whole thing off. So they actually had their vessel go before Hashem along with the fruits. Okay. Hold on, I lost my place. Yeah, okay, test. Al Piano Yuvan Hashaitus. The mitzvahs bechorim meshech parshas oides haberis al kalal satorva mitzvahs, and now we can finally make the connection or the bridge to what we first started off the whole sikha about, which is the connection between this simple mitzvah that does not seem connected to everything else, bechorim, along with all the other mitzvahs that are brought out in the Torah. Bechorim hamayla ha'atzmi is the Israel, because bechorim shows the very advantage of the very essence of a Jew. That they're the ultimate beginning and foundation for the entire Torah and mitzvot. Because Jewish people and God are truly one. That Hashem made a covenant between us and Him, and we have a covenant with us and Him. And that exists here below in this physical world. As debris, Ansmam, B'kiyamim as a Torah b'mitzvah shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that the Jewish people fulfilled upon herself and received upon herself to fulfill God's entire Torah and His mitzvahs. Hayom ez Hashem Elokecha mitzvah es hakim, and that's what it says. Today, God is placing before you all these mitzvahs for you to keep and guard over them. B'kol devav b'kol nafshcha, with all of your heart and all of your soul. Because we are a treasured nation to God. And He chose us amongst all the nations to be His glory, His crowning glory in this world. Yud. That today I'm placing before you these mitzvahs. But call yom every day. They should be brand new in your eyes, like I'm giving them to you. And as we said at great length above, that the Jewish people are God's chosen, His first fruits. Hu behem atzmim v'hakol nivra avoram. Muvan l'chein shekol prat chayav Yehudi. And therefore, every single option of all of our lives, every single detail, call rega bisman, in all times and all places, call nekudas b'makom, in all points, in all places, call hamakshav v'dura u'maisa, yichid, all of our thoughts, speech, and deeds, yeshlo dataklis bo etz, must connect to the very essence of this idea. Brand new, chadash legamri. And that's what it means for you. Nivra oidam, the world was created. As we said, every single moment is precious. Every single moment we must pause and think about. And before you speak, before you act, put intention. There needs to be kavanah, there needs to be intention behind what we're doing. There has to be a purpose for it. And specifically it says that Jewish people that existed every single day, we should be brand new in our eyes, just like the mitzvah should be chidush hamitis. This is something very unique. And not in every day, every moment. Call and call haragim ad safe siyam avodas. But bedarga bedugma miza ma shedavka ben Yisrael yesh b'chaychem nacharish b'Torah. That's what it means. We must find unique things in the Torah. It must be truly brand new. Yud. In other words, God creates us brand new every single moment from absolutely nothing. And every single moment He recreates us from absolutely nothing. And therefore we see the importance of every single moment of our time to emphasize it and use it for important things. Yud Aleph. And from this we can understand the name of the parsha. Tzavo. Afalpi. Tzavo hakana v'hakdama the kiyum Torah mitzvahs. That even though it's talking about a preparation for entering the land of Israel and fulfilling the Torah and mitzvahs. But in actuality, it's referring to the order of the service of the Jewish people. That this refers to the essence of all of our work, of everything we're doing. God, this is where the word savot means, when you enter. It's referring to the beginning of the service of Yid. That means that we have to prepare to enter in an inner dimension. that it's giving us the power to prepare to enter to do these mitzvahs. For sure, that we will dwell into the land that God gives us. The mitzvahs is avos bichorim umikra bichorim mikra bichorim. Our klaus kima habris v'hemshach haparsha. The haisef shisham v'parshas tavo. Rumas tavo hu ba'oifen v'dai. Hakim Mizbata Es Seder Shaboze Yehiyah. Shadavar Vadai Shihat Tavo Alatz V'Yeshusam V'Yeshab B'Hashem B'Oifan V'Yihit V'Tab Ein Hashem Elamiyat Ein V'Hashem Elamiyat Ad Shemiyat Become Es Mitzvah B'Chorim. Okay, so the idea is that we're getting preparation, the preparation for entering into the land that we're talking about, to do all the mitzvahs, to prepare us with this mindset that before we enter into the land, of why we're here, of what we're doing, of what our purpose is, and realizing the importance, as we said, about of every moment we're standing before Hashem or God. Your base. And now, how does this apply specifically, of course, in the month of Elul? Hazman, Cheshbon, and Nefesh, the time when we must do a righteous accounting of what's going on in our soul. Of what the past year is and what this upcoming year is going to bring. Chodesh Elul, Rosh Tevis Ani Ledori V'Dodi Li. I am my beloved, and my beloved is to me. Hu B'Zaman Shebo Kol Yehudi Margish Karoi L'Hakadosh Baruch. That this is the time that every single Jew must emphasize the closeness that we have with God. Kariva Hakashar Im Ahab, and this is a true bond of love. Maduva Kumudgash V'Betui Dodi. Kamashal Hayadua Shakol Ha'admor Hazakim. B'Chodesh Elul HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kamelech B'Sadeh, as we know that the king is in the field. V'Az Rishim Kol Mei Sheratza HaKabel Panav Hu Makabel Es Kulam B'Sava Panim. That whoever wishes to receive the king, God comes and presents himself to us and gives us that opportunity. Throughout the year, we have to go to Hashem. This is the month that God comes to us. He's literally there. Mara Panim Shahakas Lekulam. Whoever wants and requests has God there answering in a close face-to-face time. It's a very opportune time that we find ourselves in. This emphasizes again this idea of first fruits. And we must emphasize even more this concept of that we are the firstborn fruits of Hashem, and that we are very close to Hashem, and that the level of importance of the Jewish people that we exist to God. And this is not only applicable to Talmid Chachamim, to very big rabbis, to every single one of us, no matter who we are. Each one of us has the ability to greet God into the King and welcome and bring him into our lives. And this shows and emphasizes the essence of what a Jew is. The first fruits of God. And showing the deep love and bond that we have with our Creator. And this is again emphasizing the idea, I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. And this is referring the very essence of a Jew. Excuse me. I'm to my beloved. As we present ourselves to God, God returns to us. He is our mirror. The more we give to God, the more we're able to receive from him. He's giving to us all the time. The question is if we're capable of receiving what he's giving. And this is the month we're emphasizing this idea, this connection. The true connection and love between God and the Jewish people, as it is written. Called Lev Hadam Ladam. Just like water reflects the face, so does the heart of man to man. Lev Adam Tachtoin Mishtokek Bahava La Adam Aryeh. It's also referring to the hearts and love of the lower man that is arousing the love of the upper man, referring to our what we call as Adam Elyon, where our soul exists in perfection with God in the upper worlds. Ani Ledodi or Achachach Dodi Li. Lev Adam Elyon, Adam Hatachtoin. The more we're giving, especially in this month, it's a tremendous opportunity. Don't waste these days. Every day is precious. And we're halfway through the month. That's it. Rosh Hashanah is 2 weeks away. We're getting closer than we can imagine. Let's keep this energy and use every single moment precious to connect to God. Because the more we work on connecting to Hashem, the more that energy comes back to us. Yesh Lamar, there is to say, that we have the power, the fuel and actuality, to express and reveal the fact that we are God's first fruits. When we place ourselves before God, that God and the Jewish people are truly one. Mr. That even though this is the world of concealment, where we may not be able to see how important we are to God, and on the contrary, it may look like we're not important to God, but we can. It's there. We just have to reveal this connection. Mishes, Rashi, Tevis, Edu, Keneged Torah, Avoda, Bigmot Hasidim. But these are the three pillars the world stands on: Torah, mitzvot, and good deeds. To Shuva V'Gula, and then we have the higher levels of Shuva, returning Gula, which is redemption. When you attack in the lower levels, you get to the redemption. Karuma, B'Malale, and this is hinted in the word Lev. Shugamatria Chaf Beis B'Tzrif Yud. It's a combination of gematria of 22. Tziruf Yud, with the addition of Yud, 22 Hebrew letters of the alphabet, and the 10 Sfirot. Again, showing this connection of oneness to God. Yud Gimel Mezeh Yishna Lemar B'Fla, but Noga the Heshbon HaNefesh Kol Echad Tzrich LeOrech B'Chodesh Edu Al Havodat Teshana Ha'avar. And now, as we said above, as a connecting, as we must do a righteous accounting for this entire year, and every single one of us must arouse yourself in this month of Elul to prepare for the service of the upcoming year and to focus on the service of the past year. Almanas Deshleim as Chesed O Ze O Shelo Nasa Beshleimus V'Gam Lo Arich HaKavana Misatim LaAvoda Harshana Haba. מתחשב בכך שכל יהודי הוא בכורי, שאויסם צריכים להביא לפני השם אלוהיך, בבית המקדש. Again, we're literally standing before Hashem in the base of Mikdash. Excuse me, וזה צריך לחדור בכל חייב. And it's necessary that this penetrates every aspect of our life, to really live with the consciousness and awareness that God is before us at all times. And we have the ability to connect to Hashem. And we have the ability to have blessings and abundance beyond what we can imagine. But we have to keep this relationship, this real relationship, right? Even ordinary matters, not just Torah and mitzvahs. Not only on Shabbat and Yom Tovim, but the Rebbe says every day of the week, all the time. Always remember who is standing before us. Whatever our thoughts, our speech, or our actions are representing. That regardless of what our thoughts, our speech, or our deeds may be, always keep in mind that we are God's first fruits, we're his Bechor, we're his chosen. And we're literally standing, and whatever we're giving out into the world, Whatever you're thinking, and don't think God doesn't know what you're thinking. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions, that's the energy we're handing God. Can you imagine? Think about that. Everything you do all day long, every word, every thought, every deed, you're placing before God and saying, God, you created me. You give me life. You've given me the opportunity to live in your world. And here's what I'm giving back to you. Let's think about what we're giving back to God. What's coming out of our mouths? What's coming out of our hands with the deeds of our doing, and what are in our thoughts? It's intense stuff. I lost my place again. 1 second. No, here we go. וכן אשר יהיה בימים ההם, מפקיר all call תנועה שלו, ודאי שידע לו ותחזק שכל דבר ככה קטן, וכל פרט. And Hagar Yasa, Mamado, and Shuba Haleva, this shall arouse us all to do proper tshuva. V'im kein hu b'chol yimei shana. Harzeh kama pa'amim kacha achariyos v'chaziros v'yachad im ha'azchiros. Hamdin v'chodesh Elul, as we find ourselves in the month of Elul. Chodesh ha'cheshbon v'kol ha'shana sha'avar, the month that we do an accounting of the previous year. Chodesh hakana l'kol hashana haba, and that we prepare for the upcoming year. But part shneim aser hayamim acharonim the chodesh Elul shem keneged yud beis chadash, and especially in the last 12 days of the month, we know that the days between Chai Elul and Rosh Hashanah, there's 12 days. Each one we repair the previous a month from the previous year. It's an opportunity to fix those previous years. Yom Chodesh muvan oid yoser. We use this time preciously to prepare, to think about our past year and think about what we're going to do better and differently in the upcoming year. But the year I will show you wonders. I show you wonders in everything. And give us a deeper understanding. And there's even an advantage of Bina over Chachma. But we must have both of them together, sight and hearing. And in addition to what we said above, that we must influence all the Jews in our surrounding circles to increase in their service in the month of Elul. Especially we're entering the days of Slichot. And then afterwards we roll into Tishrei. This Motzi Shabbat, we're beginning Slichot. And furthermore, the Orer, Shuv, Oidus, Histadus, the Sefik, the Safik, Esrich Lahag, the Kal Tzrichim, we must supply all those with all their needs for their holidays, money for food, for drinks, etc. In addition, we must increase in our learning about Mashiach and Geula, which, look at that, that's what we're doing tonight. That's wonderful. Because the Mashiach must come immediately now. And the completion of entering into our land. Will be in the true and complete redemption. And just like I took you out of the Egypt, I will show you wonders. Then according to all signs, Mashiach should have already come already. Should already be here. Especially now in the month of Elul. That the king is there in the field to greet each one of us with a righteous countenance, with a smiling face. And whoever wants to greet him can come and greet him. So when we come and greet him, the Rebbe says, what do we have to request? Ad Masai. We have to say to Hashem, until when? Shavo kavar gula kavafal mamish. You must bring Mashiach now in actuality. And to remember that we are the first fruits of God. And we are one with God. And we find ourselves literally before Hashem our God. And God has given each one of us the power to bring the redemption in actuality. Tarem Yikra Va'ani Anar. Hayosh Yishna Hamitzias, the Koroi, who Nimsa, the Mitzav, Kiroi. Oina Kodesh Boro, Matin, Shikra before Allah, Taram, okay. And has been declared by our Rebbes and our leaders. Lo Beratzeno Alochaneno Lagula Es, Beratzeno Nimsa Natsab Lagulas. That the only reason that we are in the Gullus is because God put us in the Gullus. It's God's will that we should go through this process of refining the world for Him. And we must realize in all of our actions and everything that we find ourselves in this world, that we are one together with God. And especially in this month of Elul. Our will should not, God forbid, be against Hashem, against anything else. Because when we make God's will like our will, when we make our will like God's will, God will make our will others like ours. That the will of God is to be with the will of the Jews, and the will of the Jews is to be with the will of God. And every Jew has power to do this. Don't think we are not capable. To nullify the exile. And literally bring the redemption right now. And the Rebbe says, don't think for a moment that the reason that we're in the exile is because God forbid that the nations of the world have a power over us, that they're stronger than us, that they're more numerous than us. There's nothing we can do. God, we're outnumbered. They have we must do what they say. We must listen to them. No, the only reason we follow is because this is God's will. And the fact is that the Gullus is not really part of who we are. We're not really subjected to it. When we're connected to our godly soul, to a deeper dimension, we're above it. That we're literally sitting around the table of our Father before Hashem our God in the base of Mikdash. And that God will arouse each one of us to realize that we are His first fruits and that we are truly one with Hashem. The Batul Miyad Esagadus, and with this realization that we are one with Hashem and that God is one with us. Yes, that's from Pirkei Avos. This will nullify the Gullus. The Rebbe says right here, it's amazing that how the Jewish people are one with God. And through this, the Rebbe says, the Batul Miyad Esagadus. Wow. This will immediately nullify the exile. When we come to this realization that we're one with God, there is no Gullus. There's no exile. It just disappears. But that's not just a realization in here, right? If we've learned anything this evening, it comes out of our mouth and out of our actions. We got to do. The Hotzias and all the good things that we'll take with us out of the exile. The Soiz Goyla Shahiaguda, and we will transform exile to redemption. Excuse me. By adding the Aleph into Gola, as we said before, and turning into Geula. And this is the advantage of Tshuva. We got sent into the descent into the exile, so we can do Tshuva and go to a higher place. And nothing stands in the way of Tshuva. But God is the one who sent us to the exile. And therefore, Nora elila al b'nei adam. Rak b'chdei la'elois b'nei l'mayla yos. Only to reach higher levels. Mamira aidei va'enias hamiras de b'nei Yisrael yesh koicha de batel es ha'helav v'yirida de feisha goes. And we have the ability, we have the power to nullify any things that are causing this exile and the blockage of us between us and God. And will enter the Aleph into the exile and transform it into Geula and the true and complete redemption. And may it be God's will. And that we must request of God. God, have mercy on your children and take us out of this exile already. And then we will already be in the true and complete redemption through our righteous Redeemer Mashiach. May be God's will. Hashem Paul as that all these should come to action in actuality. And we'll find ourselves in the redemption truly, immediately. We will all go together to all arts, to our holy land. And each one of us will dwell in our portion that God will give us. And that we will take our first fruits and bring them before Hashem. And it should happen immediately. God will bless us all to have true redemption in every capacity. We should have the fullest Gadol Malach Mashiach and the true and complete redemption right now. God bless you, Moshiach Now.